So after two very informative keynote speaks, and I'm very happy that we have four gentlemen here to give us more kind of insight about the state of e-commerce in Indonesia. I remember in 2016, Indonesian president asserted that he want Indonesia to be the digital energy of Asia. So in your point of view, where this kind of energy, digital energy, comes from? I mean, from Indonesia's perspective, for example, the size of the market and the characteristic of the market, the potential of the market. So, gentlemen, could you please share with us your insights? So I will suggest from Mr. Kumar, and then we one by one.
Very good morning to everyone. It's truly an honor and a pleasure to be here at this conference to share our thoughts. On your question, Lurong, yes, Indonesia is on its way to become the digital giant of ASEAN very, very soon, and we all believe it is in the making already. And the reason why we believe that there is a big opportunity for Indonesia, already the speakers who gave the introduction, they covered it. First of all, the population demographic is very, very suitable for digital commerce. It's mostly a young population, like Ibu Marie has already said that in her speech very nicely. Therefore, they are born in the digital world or digital natives. A significant population is within the age group of, let's say, 20 to 40, which is digitally familiar. They are very familiar with respect to what's happening in the digital world. Secondly, the internet penetration is also upward of 50%. And I was just reading through some tidbits as of yesterday. ASEAN among the world is the fastest growing nation in terms of adding internet users year on year. And within ASEAN, Indonesia is the #1 country which is growing in terms of the users of internet every year. It's projected that Indonesia will add about 19% of internet users year on year for next 5 years. And that 19%, you can look at it in conjunction with mature markets like USA, Europe adding only 1% every year, China adding 3%, and we are going to add 19% of internet users every year. So that's another positive thing that's happening. Also, the entire ecosystem is also developing. The marketplace are coming in and is starting to develop, and it's also good news. On top of everything, the government policies, like we have seen, is becoming very, very favorable for an investment here in the country, as well as for digital growth. So all of this put together will help Indonesia to become truly the rising stars in the next 5-10 years in the internet world. Thank you.
Well, morning everyone. I think Mr. Kumar already summed it up, right? So I don't have to to explain more. Well, I like to offer two different perspectives here. Okay, I think from the potential in terms of market, there's no question about it. Okay, everybody already knew we have what it takes to be the biggest market for digital. Okay. But the other side of the coin is that whether Indonesia can become the digital producers, not just the market, right? I think from the previous presentation that Bu Mira shared, there are a lot of skills and numbers of laborers which actually becoming a question mark in the next 5, 10, 15 years from now. So I don't think that we only think that Indonesia is good just as a market. Okay? I think we as a country also have to think that we have to prepare the talents, the infrastructures, and everything else, whatever it takes. All the stakeholders have to collaborate together. If this country really wants to become the digital power of Asia, okay? it's very interesting, I think, for us here as a players, as a practitioners, to observe the growth in the last 6, 7, 8 years in Indonesia. It was quite truly amazing. Okay, I think I remember. Well, maybe you guys can share it also your experience, but the first year when we opened back in 2011, my God, just to find a partners who can deliver the product outside Java was a big mess. Okay, let alone the internet connection. Right? It was so slow. Okay, the website was slow, mobile was slow. You know, people said, yeah, Indonesia, we have a lot of mobile users. Mobile internet's been growing, yes, but the infrastructure was not ready. But there's a lot of growth happening. I think with the support of government and then a lot of private sectors really put a lot of investment on this. It's just, it's a complete different ecosystem now, right? 6 years ago, it was unthink of that we have a company like Gojek and others, right? Now, people just, feel very convenient, ordering food. They can come to e-commerce just to order almost about anything, right? At any time. You don't have to be bound by time, by locations or anything. So the consumer's behavior has also changed. We've seen a lot of transformation. A lot of people, I know there are friends here coming from the offline, coming from the shopping malls. And the last few years, everybody was saying that e-commerce is gonna kill offline. I personally disagree. Okay? It's just how the offline players also transform to follow or to accommodate the needs of the customers, right? Why do you want to push something to the customers on something that they don't really need, right? Why do you have something that they might not, require? And then the service and the convenience and everything. But if the offline players also utilize the technology and create a seamless experience, both offline and online, okay? I don't care, online, offline, online, whatever it is, right? Then I think, Indonesia can really feel the potential. I think that's all from me.
Hi, morning. I'll keep it quite short. So I think from my perspective, I think what is interesting from more of fashion retailer perspective, because I manage a fashion e-commerce company now in Indonesia. So I think what is very challenging in the offline space is I think Indonesia is a very diverse country culturally. So there's a lot of demand for a lot of different kinds of clothes and different brands. I think what the challenge for offline is the offline supply has been very stable or flattish in the past 5 to 10 years. So there hasn't been a lot of innovation in terms of new products or bringing in new brands. And the infrastructure has also been very stable. There hasn't been a lot of innovation in terms of the infrastructure in offline shopping. And I think if you start going to second or third tier places in Indonesia, actually the offline experience is actually quite lacking compared to, let's say, China, United States, right? So I think what we can do as an online player is we can actually disrupt because we can bring in a lot of these brands that are not in the market and have one platform and offer them to the consumers around Indonesia with the booming infrastructure being built online, right? Like what Kusumo said, 3-4 years ago, there was no Gojek. Now there's much better delivery systems around Indonesia, there's much better payment systems now compared to before. So I think the online infrastructure has been booming quite a bit. Actually, has been disrupting quite a bit for the infrastructure online compared to offline, which is, I think, one of the reasons why the online is very interesting from a consumer perspective, because all these choices and offerings from the online platforms are able to be delivered in a much more robust and convenient way compared to 3-4 years ago. And at the same time, the supply and the product side has also exploded compared to relative to offline and compared to a few years ago.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning. Just would like to adding to all the gentlemen. I think have been already very comprehensively expressing to what the development or evolutions about the e-commerce industry for the last, I think, 5 to 6 years. But then the most important to me, I just would like to put the keyword, I mean, provocating keyword in here. Looks for the last, over the past years, 5 to 6 year evolution of the e-commerce in Indonesia, it look like that there's been China-fications model of the e-commerce in Indonesia. It's starting from the investments, the platforms, the behavior models, and also the product supply and etc. in here. So but meanwhile, if we are looking on the objective of the presidents in this particular on how to build on the goals, having about 130 billion US dollar economic digital economic value in 2020 as a target in Indonesia, I think this been already worrying in the level of the nations that we are not providing the good foundations for taking the benefit out of these opportunities on the e-commerce industry itself. We are very, very less behind about the productions, right? We are left behind on the talents, like Bumi represented, right? So in this particular, we are just looking that Indonesia starting at the moment in the level of the market target. This is the thing what we have to look after. But in terms of the how then the infrastructure on what kind of the regulation support being already built to support coming from the government itself, I think been already concrete, right, for the last 5 years. I mean, we have been, Ibu Farah from the GPM already explained it, the negative list investment already taken out in terms of the investment level, and then in terms of the roadmap e-commerce been already signed and approved by the presidents on the last years, right? This is also hopefully to giving fastening of the e-commerce development in Indonesia quite fast to achieve the goal. But then on top of that, in terms of the infrastructure, to have the equality level standard all around nation, like from the internet infrastructure. I think government have been already starting for the development of the Palaparing. That will be, I think, planning to be finished and completed by 2019, if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully with this infrastructure support and also the regulation being provided by the governments, I think that can even make this the goals to become the largest economic digital in Southeast Asia come true in the fast and also in the same as per the planning itself. Well, I'm really optimistic for that. As long as we are working together in here and then creating the battlefield equality battlefields, and then giving opportunities and look for the priority to the nation, to the country itself. I think that's what I just would like share in the first stage on the overview on the e-commerce.
Thank you very much. And from this speech, a key message I can then is that I can see that people from private sector and people from government, actually you are on the same page. It's not the situation. I think that's very important and very positive message to the Indonesia's e-commerce market. My next question is actually when we talk about e-commerce, digital economy, there's key words we often hear in Asia is inclusiveness. How to include SMEs to benefit from this global trend, thinking that SME account for over 90% of business in the country. And for big country like Indonesia, I think this is kind of a key issue we also need to keep in mind when we talk about e-business, e-commerce development. So, gentlemen, may I ask your ideas, opinions about how to really realize SME inclusive growth in ASEAN or Indonesia as well?
The inclusiveness is something which is very easily possible with the digital platforms coming in. And globally, what we are finding is that the areas and the countries, whichever were underserviced or unserviced with the physical retail model, with the advent of internet commerce, overnight, you find the inclusiveness both on the SME side as well as on the consumer side. Take a look at Indonesia. Like Ibu Mira's presentation, I'm just taking some data point. The spread of the country is almost like a 4,000 miles. And if you compare USA from east to west, Indonesia is even bigger spread compared to US. It's a very diverse country in terms of the spread, the demographic, and everything. Offline retail cannot possibly reach out to every single nook and corner of the country, satisfying the customers. The moment you have internet commerce, overnight, you have an opportunity to service the customers who hitherto were not serviced because you are not able to reach out, be it is infrastructure issue or a logistic issue, whatever it is, you cannot go and probably put your brands and retailing every single part of the country. So inclusiveness from the customer point of view is immediately there with the advent of internet commerce for all the retailers. Now, your question is on the SME side. To me, the marketplaces coming in with a full infrastructure, like my friends sitting here, they are really helping the country and the government in the days to come, and they're already helping as of now. How do they help? If you look at for an SME to put up the entire infrastructure, like Ibamira has pointed out, be it on the payment side, on the logistics side, on the accounting side, taxing side, it's going to be extremely difficult for every SME, imagine, to come on the digital platform. It's going to be time consuming, it's going to be high investment oriented, and success not guaranteed. Where the marketplace economy is playing a very, very good role is to bring these SMEs, give the opportunity for all of these SMEs on an equal level playing field on an e-commerce platform, almost available at a very small margin to be able to sell their products to the customers across the country. So to me, both from the customer point of view as well as from the SME point of view, this is the best thing to happen for the country, because at the end of the day, it drives consumption and it drives the economy upwards. Thank you.
I just want to add a little bit on the SME side. Okay, I think the inclusiveness and everything, because of the technology advancement, because of the internet and the e-commerce itself, definitely is there, right? It's available for them. It's available for SME, regardless of where you are. Now, the question is, for a lot of people, they think that selling online is easy. I think putting your stuff online is easy. Try to sell it to your customers, that's completely a different story, okay? So there are a lot of other preparation as SME, okay? You got to understand a little bit about digital marketing. You got to understand that the expectation of your customers purchasing the stuff online is also the same as the expectations as if they were coming to your store and getting your stuff with the quality that you promise, right? Or even like the simple thing, the pictures, okay? There are a lot of SMEs in Indonesia, they have a good quality products, but when it comes to packaging, investing on taking a nice picture, make it more appealing, they feel like, oh, this is a burden for me. This is an extra cost, right? Imagine that somebody in outside Java, for example, right? If you're a producers of, keripik balado in Padang, right? You're trying to sell your keripik online. People cannot taste, right? People cannot smell. They can only see the pictures and the descriptions and the rating or review from other customers, right? All those things, if you don't put attentions, I think it's going to be difficult, right? Because there are going to be 1,000 others who sell the same thing. So how are you going to differentiate yourself with the other sellers on the platform, right? So my point is that with the readiness of platform, internet, and everything, use it, right? Leverage it, but you got to prepare also as SME, or as a matter of fact, not just SME, okay? We're dealing a lot with principals, with big companies, but when it comes to digital, when it comes to online, there's still mindset that once I put my stuff online, everybody will come automatically and buy my stuff, okay? And then if somebody already buy, then the fulfillment side, right? Oh yeah, I'll wait, okay? If somebody make a purchase on Friday afternoon, they can wait until Monday before I start packaging my stuff and ship it. No, right? The expectation is the same. You already pay. You go to a store, you pay, you want to get the product, right? You want to use it, you want to enjoy it. Same thing in online, right? You already pay. The customers already give you more trust because they only see the pictures, okay? They cannot touch, they cannot try. So in order to keep that trust, as the producers, as the sellers, then you gotta fulfill the order as fast as possible, right? I think that's what I want to add.
So I think now it's actually a great time to be an SME in Indonesia. It's actually one of the best times because it's probably better to be an SME than to be a platform because there's so much subsidy going on by platforms to get the SMEs online, and there's huge demand for great products. I think it's back to my thesis. I think in Indonesia today, what's lacking is great products. There's definitely demand in the market for consumers. There's not enough good supply. That's why the platforms are willing to spend a lot of money to subsidize free shipping, no commissions to get SMEs online. So not just the platforms, right? Because if you think about modern retailing today, there's so many different channels like Instagram, Facebook, even YouTube is basically eating into the traditional channels. Like think about Instagram stories today. It's probably the #1 ad format for video consumptions today for the younger generations, the millennials, because I think a lot of people here in the room probably haven't switched on TVs for more than 3 months, right? So a lot of the new channels, whether it's platforms or social media, are allowing SMEs to sell. And in fact, there's huge demands for SMEs to sell. I think there's actually a big movement today already for getting SMEs online, and I'm pretty confident that this will continue for the next 5 to 10 years as long as the product qualities are good.
Just to adding, I think in terms of the SME, I look from another angle. Okay, what is actually the issue on the SME? There are 6 issues on the SME. One is actually the market. Second is actually about the funding. Okay, the third one is the business knowledge. The fourth, administrative compliance. Number 5, technology. Number 6, network. What is the most in terms of the platform e-commerce providing in the equality still in the number 1, which is opening the market to the SME. But it's hardly to find the institution, even though now still the government is looking forward what kind of the program to be developed to support another 5. Funding, business knowledge, not all etc. Because look, today and tomorrow, everybody is easily can be created their own product because the channel providing a lot and will be very not costly. Even you can get the subsidy. But then the big challenge is actually about whenever your product is growing up and scaling up, and then the SME has always facing the same problem. Where is the funding to scaling the production? How to create the standard quality product when you producing the massive product? How to do the IP, intellectual properties, all everything's in there. But then unfortunately, until today, many of the platform, I mean, there's all the e-commerce now try to helping the SME only in the first stage, which is opening the channel market, but not in the come to the second and the sixth point of the issue in the SME. But I think, as the gentleman said, I mean, this is the time. Then we have to look another angle. If we want to support the SME and sustain and growing the SME, also in the end of the day, to be part of the contributor to the e-commerce industry. And remember, the evolution of the e-commerce all around the world, China, US, the same. E-commerce will be start to grow by using the tertiary product. Because the secondary product and primary product is really costly in terms of the logistic, production, etc. But today, let's the creative industry to be open an opportunity for the SME to create their own product in the local productions, right? But then let's also thinking about the secondary and primary product sector, about the agribusiness, about the fishery, all the thing. But whenever whenever you come to the e-commerce to come to the level of the secondary and primary product, this will be increase the volume. Meaning what? Meaning this is to efficient the cost unit per cost of the operation, of the logistic and etc. So whenever this is happen, then it will be ideal and perfect for the SME, but also for the corporate.
Thank you very much. Here we see the kind of very deep insight from the supply side that even this digital economy, e-commerce, can provide new solution, new business, and even favorable development conditions for SMEs. There's still something kind of essential that you need to build up your capacity, competitiveness. That's very strong information. And regarding the e-commerce development, there's another side stories from demand side. And for that part, we will have another keynote. But before we go to the next session, ladies and gentlemen, please join me to have a round of big applause to our 4 outstanding speakers.